Welcome to the Complete Street Commission's February 11th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in accordance with public health guidelines. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I am Chair Athena Irakomos. Commissioners present include Jackie Sebrian, Meredith Bergen-Bailey, Scott Herscher, and Kevin Rennie. Commissioners absent include Sally Cole and Matthew Raskoff. City staff present include Joanna Chan, Transportation Manager, Katrine Maki, Senior Transportation Planner, and Cassandra Cortez, Associate Transportation Planner. Katrine, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
For members of the public who wish to provide, thank you, Chair Irakomos and members of the Complete Streets Commission. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment for any item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on that item, if you are in person, we ask that you fill out a speaker card available at the back table and return that to the clerk's desk. If you are participating virtually, attendees on Zoom may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. First, we have reports and announcements. Item C, under reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Katrine, are there any reports or announcements?
I have two items that will go before council. You'll see on the agenda for February 24th, Pierce, which we talked about at the last meeting, will be up for council on February 24th, and then Slow Streets will go to council on March 10th. That concludes my reports and announcements.
Sorry, Pierce on February 24th and
Slow Streets March 10th.
Slow Streets March 11th. Thank you. March 10th. Sorry. So much slower to write than to type. Do we need okay, next is public comment. Under public comment, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Katrine, do you please call for general public comment?
Virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table and bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Robert, you may speak.
Hello, I'm Robert Cronin. I live in the Willows. I would like to comment on two issues. The first, I would like to say, or just mention that the issue of an undercrossing of the Caltrain tracks aligning more or less with Middle Avenue has been an issue for something like 20 years. And in that time, Mountain View has constructed undercrossings of Highway 101, El Camino Real, Highway 85, and Middlefield, among others. The undercrossings of Highway 101 and ECR and El Camino Real are over 100 feet long. And yet Menlo Park can't seem to get its act together to construct a tunnel under the tracks, which would be maybe 20 feet long. So that's all I have to say on that subject. On the other topic, bike lanes on El Camino. Palo Alto has bike lanes on El Camino. And I understand that Atherton is thinking about bicycle lanes on El Camino. Does Menlo Park want to be the city where bike lanes on El Camino just go away? That's all I have to say. Any comment,
Thank you.
any response? No? Okay.
Thank you. I guess as an informational item, we do have a subcommittee working on bike lanes on El Camino.
I'm glad to hear that.
Ken, you may speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ken Kirschner. I'm a resident of the Allied Arts District. I want to thank the ad hoc committee on El Camino and the city staff for the recent progress you've made on the El Camino Bikeway Quick Build. El Camino is not just a regional corridor, it's our city's main street, and it's uncomfortable and unsafe, and I see people biking on it every day. They want to access local businesses without a car. The quick build approach is the right tool for the right time. It helps us deliver safety benefits soon, learn from our real world use, and adjust over time instead of waiting another decade for Caltrans. Protected bikeways improve safety for everyone, drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians, and they support our climate, health, and economic goals. So thank you for your leadership, your pragmatism, and your persistence. I strongly support moving forward with the El Camino Bikeway Quick Build and look forward to seeing it delivered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no one further in queue for public comment. I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you, Katrine. That concludes public comment. So we'll move to regular business. Under regular business, the commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. The first regular business item tonight is item E1, accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for January 14th, 2026. Is there any clarification from the commission before I take public comment? Okay, Katrine, could you please call for public comment on this item?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card at the back table and bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. I have no one in queue for public comment. I return the meeting to the chair.
Do I have a motion and second to approve the minutes? Commissioner Bergen-Bailey for the motion and Commissioner Seabrian as the second. And we'll vote. Okay.
That was it. Unanimous aye. The motion is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to item E2, receive an update on Reimagine Dumbarton. Millie Tolson, Planning Director of Samtrans, will introduce this item.
Good evening, Complete Streets Commissioners. My name is Millie Tollison. I'm the Director of Planning at Samtrans. I'm also the Project Manager of Reimagine Dumbarton, our Dumbarton Busway Feasibility Study. I'm happy to be here with you this evening. So today we do have a brief slide deck here, and then happy to take any comments or questions. So we'll do a little overview of our project, talk a little bit about what is a busway, why we are recommending one or why we are studying one, and let you know about our current community engagement that we have going on right now and ways that the community can provide input. So a bit of background just to get us started. Just to kind of orient us, we are talking about the Dumbarton Rail Corridor, and we're talking most specifically about the 5 mile or so inactive segment of the rail corridor, only here on the peninsula. So between the communities of East Palo Alto and Redwood City. Samtrans acquired, the San Mateo County Transit District acquired the Dumbarton Rail Corridor in the early 1990s And since then, it has been the subject of numerous studies for ways to revive the corridor and open it up for community and mobility purposes. We do note and want to build on the previous studies and outreach that has been done, consistently hearing the need for better local connectivity, including safer walking and biking, improved crossings along the corridor. Right now, in many parts of the corridor acts as just simply a barrier between communities. Faster and more reliable transit for everyday trips, as well as really a desire for near-term and cost-effective solutions that could again be delivered in the near term. Our Reimagine Dumbarton project, this map kind of gives you a sense of the study area. So the corridor is the red, the rail corridor is the segment shown in red on the map. Again, I mentioned it's about 5 miles long. Ultimately, we do want to bring the service and the corridor all the way to the Redwood City Transit Center. And the extent on the east part of the corridor is University Avenue in East Palo Alto. And our project envisions converting the Dumbarton Rail Corridor into a rapid transit service with additional pedestrian, walking, and bicycling connections along and across the corridor. So over the course of this study, we are going to be assessing both the feasibility and the community interest in that kind of a vision, refining the vision to address community input and technical constraints, and further developing a project to ultimately move forward, we hope, into further design and ultimately construction. And this shows you our schedule. So we are fairly early in the project. We are in winter 2026. We are in the middle of our first round of community engagement. This spring, we will be developing our project alternatives based on the first round of engagement, ready to share those more specific alternatives with the community in late summer. The fall, we'll be selecting a preferred project design alternative, doing a third round of a community engagement to report out on what we heard and how we used everyone's feedback, and then wrapping the study up about a year from now, a little over a year from now, with an implementation plan. And I want to just point out that we are really guided by a few principles. Like I mentioned, this corridor has been studied many, many times, and I think what we've heard is that the community really wants Samtrans to deliver improvements on it. So we're really focused on developing a project that is a few things. First of all, fundable. We want to be really rooted in the realities of our current funding landscape, both for regional transit operations as well as external funding opportunities at federal level, state level, just really understanding how we can put together a project that can be funded, which leads into also implementable. We really want a project that is implementable in the near term and that allows us to deliver these improvements. We want to be responsive to what we've already heard and what we're hearing now from the community. And of course, we want to be lastly effective, designing a project that's both able to meet our current travel demand needs, as well as what we know about future growth and what will be needed along the corridor in the future. So what is a busway? We don't have a lot of graphics yet for our project, but so we wanted to bring in a few examples just to kind of provide that visual. I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so these are a few examples of busway projects here in the United States, different kind of contexts here. Of course, on the left, we have a very successful project down in LA. It's a bit longer. It's 18 miles long with 17 stations. It uses part of the Southern Pacific Railroad's former Burbank branch line, which is an interesting connection to our project because our corridor does have Union Pacific Railroad has a relationship with the corridor as well. In the middle, there's an example out of Minneapolis, a 2.6-mile busway that is limited to buses, bicycles, as well as emergency vehicles, which we think could actually be a pretty exciting co-benefit of a project like the one we're proposing, is allowing emergency services to use it as a way of getting where they need to go as quickly as possible. And the last one is a little bit in our backyard, just down south in Monterey, the SURF project, which is currently in construction, a 6-mile bus-only roadway that is expected to start service in a couple years, and we're excited to go down and ride it when they're in service. So just a little bit about what are some of the benefits of a busway. Really an opportunity to provide really high quality transit service, fast, reliable service. We can build stations. We can really make a very nice customer experience, improving accessibility, advancing equity. There are multiple equity priority areas that line the Dumbarton Rail Corridor, and it's Samtrans' priority to invest in those in those communities. Again, potential for near-term implementation, flexible and compatible with multimodal projects. We're really excited about the possibility of not only a busway, but also a multi-use path, bicycling facility, walking facility, and really being able to integrate these uses together. Opportunity for cost-effective design, environmentally sustainable. So as you may know, Samtrans is transitioning all of our fleet to zero-emission buses. So we do anticipate that the service would be run with zero-emission buses, quiet, emission-free vehicles, and lastly, just very ready to become very competitive for funding and other partnerships. So just a little bit, we're looking at a lot of different data as part of this project. And I mentioned we want a project that not only meets today's needs, but meets future needs. This map and image shows forecasted both population and employment growth along the corridor, near the corridor between 2020 and 2050. So as you can see, a lot of both employment and residential growth is coming. We also saw in the last few years that the average daily travel between Redwood City and East Palo Alto increased by about 30%. So people are making more and more local trips, and that travel pattern has really stayed in effect since the pandemic. And we're excited about the potential not only for a local transit service, but possibly for regional buses to use the busway as well. So AC Transit, Dumbarton Express, perhaps moving into the corridor and providing a service over all the way into the East Bay. So just a couple slides on community engagement. As I mentioned, we're in our first round right now. Our goal is really to raise awareness, confirm the community's needs and priorities. So we have a survey that's live right now. We're also doing a lot of pop-ups and have community meetings later this month. Would love your help and folks to understand and take the time to take the survey. We're really interested to confirm what the community wants to get out of the corridor at this point. And then this summer and fall, we'll be back out, I think, with even more exciting information and a lot of images to share of what the corridor could look like in the future. And we'll want to be getting community input on those as well. Yes, so this slide just has all the myriad different ways we're out trying to get input, community meetings, pop-up events, working with community-based organizations, roadshow presentations to commissions like yourselves, social media. We have a project webpage, samtrans.com/Dumbarton, multilingual surveys, briefings, and going to be putting together summaries at the end of every outreach round, showing how we heard people and how we used their input. So this is just some key dates. So our two community meetings are on February 18th and February 26th. February 18th, Fair Oaks Community Center, February 26th, East Palo Alto YMCA. Both of those meetings are at 6 p.m. And we also have done a few pop-ups already, but have some coming up, including this Sunday. We're going to be at the Menlo Park Farmers Market on Sunday morning, tabling. So that is the end of our slide. Have a, ways to contact us and find more information. The survey is available at samtrans.com/Dumbarton, and we can be emailed at dumbarton@samtrans.com. So thank you very much for your time, and happy to take any comments or questions.
Thanks. Is there any clarification from the commission before I take public comment?
I have and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. Do you know why Monterey chose to only do bus and not include bike or pedestrian access as well?
So it just so happens that there is a lot of existing bicycle and pedestrian paths near their project area. So I think that was the primary reason, is that there was already a lot of that quite close to the corridor.
I also have one question, which is, you mentioned that this has been studied a few times over the last 30 years. Has a busway been considered before? And
so the last major study was that Samtrans led was in around 2017, and that was studying both a regional rail project that would be like a Caltrain style heavy rail service that would also go across the bay into the East Bay. That project studied multiple alternatives, heavy rail as well as bus alternatives. Ultimately, at that time, the rail project was recommended, but when we look back at a lot of the modeling that was done for that project, the bus ridership projections were very strong. In fact, they were actually stronger than the rail alternatives in many cases, because of the flexibility of buses to go a lot of places that rail can't go. They can meet a lot more travel needs. So I hope that answers your question. That's just kind of an example of one of the other alternatives that was studied. Yeah.
And I guess my question, kind of tying into that, my second kind of background question is, does this kind of close off that sort of Dumbarton Bridge parallel route that that train was considering?
Yeah, no. So the way that we're thinking about this is that we don't believe that a busway project would preclude a heavy rail, a regional rail project in the future. We're still including a regional rail project in regional planning lists like Plan Bay Area for years like 2050 and maybe beyond. That is a multi-billion-dollar project, and we believe that we could deliver this busway project for much less. And so we're, again, very focused on how can we do something in the near term to benefit the community without precluding a conversion possibly down the line to a regional rail project. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll have discussion after. Okay, that's the clarifying questions, and we'll come back, I think. But first, let's do public comments. So Katrine, could you please call for public comments?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Ken, you're unmuted.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ken Kirschner. I want to emphasize that protected bike and pedestrian space on the Dumbarton corridor is fully compatible with high-quality transit and consistent with Vision Zero and Safe System goals. Safe, separated, active transportation access improves corridor performance by reducing short car trips, improving first and last mile connectivity, and lowering conflict rates on adjacent roadways. When safety is treated as a design constraint, not a trade-off, multimodal corridors perform better. I appreciate keeping this option on the table and encourage the Commission to recommend that protected bike and pedestrian access be integrated as a foundational element of the corridor design. Thank you.
Having no one further in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. So you want to go first? Sure. Commissioner Sebring?
Thank you so much for this. It's kind of crazy because last month, we had a presentation and she asked at the end of it, if we had a magic wand, like what would we wish for? And having this rail project turned into bike ped facilities and whatever else you want to put next to it, like that was my magic wand. So I feel like I need to revisit and find out what kind of things she did. So yeah, I'm feeling a little like Christmassy today. So I'm super excited about this. That really my main comment is how excited I am. I know that there's a lot more details to come in the process. So I think in the end, I'll save most of that. I am sort of curious if the intent is for like buses to be able to travel both ways in that space. Okay, awesome. And then I would absolutely echo, like, I know it'll come out in the communication part, but the protected bike ped, like as a foundational element, I think is just such a critical need for this little isolated area. I live in this neighborhood, so I like, it's an interesting thing to get over the freeway. So I've been eyeing this enviously for a long time. Thanks.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. I guess my first comment is, yeah, just echoing again the protected spaces for bike and pedestrian. I often feel safer biking next to buses because they're professional drivers who are not on their phones, but they are very large vehicles and it can be a little bit scary sometimes. So safety in that regard, also like really good lighting, I think is going to be super important because parts of, I think that's important for any like rail conversion sort of thing where you're kind of behind a lot of the main roads. And one kind of, I don't know if this was a clarifying question or not. This kind of looks like it should connect up with Meta somehow, which is a major employment center in Menlo Park. Are you guys talking with Meta about like coordinating so they don't have to run as many buses or something?
Yes, it will go very close to Meta, and yes, we are coordinating with them.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I've got.
Thanks for putting this together. It looks really great. I think I saw the same thing like 10 years ago when Slocum was pushing for it. So great to see it again. Love this area. Huge, gigantic asset and resource there. Good to hear multimodal transportations on the board. Would like to see more. And I was wondering how are you guys going to address it at Samtrans, or is there going to be additional resources from the county to be put on that? Is the busway priority one and it's going to be a phased program?
So I think it's a great question if you're sort of starting to even think about sort of how a multi-use path would be kind of operated and maintained. I mean, Samtrans is a bus agency.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we can't play a role, but we would probably be looking for partners in the open space, recreational area to kind of help us think about what does it take to, operate a multi-use path. So I think that'll certainly be a question to answer as part of further design and implementation. Maybe that starts to answer your question.
Yeah, that works. So you've worked with Post, working on the Beta C trail, or would they take ownership of that? Would you pay it? Would the county pay them money to manage it? Would we give them access or ownership of that?
I think there's a lot of options that are on the table. That could be one of them. So I think, connections, I think we'll be looking to make more connections over the next few months. I mean, we're really in the feasibility study stage, but I think as we move into further design and really nailing down some of these details will be critical.
Okay. And then Commissioner Sebring brought up the connectivity, and she lives in that neighborhood and speaks to it. There's Kelly Park there. There's the Bay Trail that's pretty close to there.
Mhm.
There's Meta close to there. And in addition to that, their last presentation from CCAG, basically they did the study that they did said biking to transit is on the rise and most people want that.
Mhm.
And it's a network system and people would use transit more if they could get that support. So I think more money needs to be done getting to transit instead of just putting it there and hoping people will come. So I'm hoping more money could be spent last mile, half mile, whatever you want to do, something more than that's actually happening. I like the emergency part of it. I think that's something that's grossly underlooked. So thank you for calling that out. That's huge. And then it's a huge green space and asset. I would like to see some stewardship. There's so much concrete and steel and everything else around here. I think a lot of the habitat has been lost over the years. There's the monarch butterfly or lots of native birds and things like that, that we could use the space to maybe bring those back for migrating birds and other things. And then I had a question on the right-of-way. There's been banking of rails to trails type of things. And I know that there's some national legislation to change that. There's complete ownership by the county that nothing would change based on those national laws that would say you can't rail bank anymore to make them rails to trails or anything like that, to your knowledge?
So we are watching that conversation at the federal level to see how it might impact us.
Okay.
But Samtrans we own this land. We own this right
Okay.
of way. It is also true that Union Pacific Railroad has some rights to it. So we will be having conversations with them to work out what that could look like in the future. And then legislatively, we're keeping an eye on what you're talking about.
Great,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Just last one.
Yeah.
Thank you. SB 79, the housing near transit, how will that be impacted by this? Is this going to be considered transit, and how?
So that's another thing that we're watching closely. Our
Okay.
understanding is that bill will be getting sort of cleaned up and refined during this current cycle of legislation. So right now, actually, as we read the current legislation, there's a couple aspects of the characteristics of the service that might not be true of this particular service. So we're not sure if this service may not actually trigger it. But as I said, we're watching the cleanup of the bill closely over the next few months. And we can report back to cities and other stakeholders on the relationship to the project.
Great. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this. This is an amazing presentation and very exciting. Did occur to me, so you had this year and next year sort of forecasted for things to do. Is there anything beyond that for like when one might expect the work to be done? And it's hard because you're just at the beginning, which I understand. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, so what will happen if we move through the feasibility stage, it's feasible, it's wanted, and we want to advance it, it will go into environmental clearance phase, it will go into further design before it would move into construction. We do have funding for the next phase, the design and environmental phases. So we feel like we're really well positioned to keep driving this forward. We will need to go out for construction funds. But we do anticipate that environmental and design phase would take another few years to get through.
I see. Thanks. And then I just want to echo what my fellow commissioners have said, that multimodal use is just of paramount importance on something like this. Thank you.
I'm also ditto to my fellow commissioners. I thought that, and Mr. Kirshner put it so well. I wrote it down in my notes that I have now clicked away from. protected bike and pedestrian access to be integrated, which he just, lovely way with words. I did feel that, that like bike and ped wasn't as emphasized in the survey. Can you speak to results so far, or is that not something that we could do today?
I have not looked at them yet,
Okay.
so I
fair,
truly
fair.
cannot.
And then the other question I had, especially knowing that this project has been looked at in the past, do we feel optimistic and confident this time? And if so, like, is there a change that you feel will like bring it to the finish line into completion?
I think what I would say is you have a team of people who are really excited about it and really passionate about it, working on this, or we have, the community has. And I think we feel really encouraged truly about kind of the, I mean, there are hurdles to get across, but get the actual kind of implementation potential of this project versus some of the other scenarios that have been studied that are wonderful ideas, but are 20, 30 year away ideas. And we are just really laser focused on something that we could do in the next 10 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's really exciting to see I mean, yeah, I've been hearing about this kind of, this corridor for probably about as long as I've been in this area. And it's really exciting to see a little bit more movement on it. And hopefully we can get through this phase and the next phase and get to construction so that these areas can see more connectivity. So it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is item E3, approve a timed parking restriction. We didn't have to vote on anything, right? Okay. Approved a timed parking restriction for a loading zone and no parking zone at 1300 to 1302 El Camino Real and Garwood Way. Staff Cassandra Cortez, Associate Transportation Planner, will present this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Cassandra Cortez. I'm an Associate Transportation Planner with the City of Menlo Park. And tonight I'll be presenting for the Commission to the recommendation to approve a timed parking restriction for a loading zone and no parking zones at 1300 to 1302 El Camino Real and Garwood Way. Tonight's agenda for this item includes an overview of the CSC Curb Designation Authority, moving on to project background on Springline itself, as well as the parking modification request that staff has received from Springline, following staff analysis and recommendations, and lastly, next steps for this effort. So according to the Menlo Park Municipal Code, the Complete Streets Commission is authorized to designate no parking zones and timed parking restrictions for up to 5 spaces in areas that are outside the downtown station area in the El Camino Real Downtown Specific Plan. And the downtown station area is highlighted in yellow on the above map, and it's roughly the area of the Menlo Park Caltrain station in downtown Menlo Park. Springline is outside of this area. It's shown in blue on the above map. So therefore, this request is within the Commission's curb designation authority. To provide more background and context about Springline itself, Springline is a 6.4 acre mixed-use development that is located at 1300 to 1302 El Camino Real. It contains a mixed use such as offices, residential, restaurants, and also community uses. The development opened in 2023, and Springline has an underground parking garage that is beneath the site that is also publicly accessible. There is 1 driveway entrance on El Camino Real and 2 driveway entrances on Garwood Way. Staff received the following parking modification request from Springline. And to give an overview of the request, 1, designating a timed parking restriction for a loading zone on El Camino Real from 3 existing parking spaces. 2, designating a no parking zone at the south side of the parking garage entrance on El Camino Real from 1 parking space. 3, designating a no parking zone at the north side of the parking garage entrance on Garwood Way from one existing parking space. And the map above shows those proposed no parking zones in red and the proposed time restricted parking loading zone in yellow. Staff conducted an analysis on the proposed timed parking restriction. Staff observed that delivery trucks are double parking on El Camino Real to make those deliveries to the businesses at Springline, which causes safety concerns when those trucks are blocking the northbound travel lane. An example is shown in the above aerial image. And also staff noted that commercial delivery trucks are blocking that fire lane, as also shown in the aerial image. Staff confirmed this with the police department that they have received calls for service regarding the blocking of the travel lane. And in 2024, there were 8 calls for service, and in 2025, there were 21 calls for service. Staff are recommending a timed parking restriction for a loading zone to overall improve the traffic flow and the safety. Staff also conducted a site distance analysis on the proposed no parking zones. Springline reported visibility concerns as drivers are exiting the parking garage entrances on El Camino Real and Garwood Way. And staff is recommending 25 feet, a new red curb, or 1 parking space at each of those locations to achieve the appropriate stopping sight distance for drivers as they're exiting the driveways of the parking garage. So to summarize, staff is recommending that the Complete Streets Commission designate 3 existing spaces on El Camino Real for an established timed parking restriction for a loading zone. Install 1 no parking zone on the south side of the parking garage entrance on El Camino Real. And lastly, install 1 no parking zone at the north side of the parking garage entrance on Garwood Way. Next steps for this effort: should the CSC approve the proposed changes on El Camino Real and Garwood Way, Menlo Park Municipal Code allows for any resident, business owner, or property owner to appeal the decision to City Council within 15 days after CSC's decision. If there is no appeal received, Springline will be responsible for implementing via the encroachment permit process. And that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Are there any clarifying questions from the commission?
So was this a request of Springline, or how did it come across, or was it the police department or who initiated it?
This was a consolidated ask from the businesses at Springline, but staff also confirmed the concerns with the police department.
Right. And were other like daylighting laws or other thing considered for this block?
The purpose of this effort is to address the visibility concerns in the loading zone. Daylighting was not considered within this specific effort.
Got it. Cool. Thanks.
I have a question about the loading unloading zone. Is it ever allowed to essentially double park to unload like that? Is that, it feels massively dangerous. It feels illegal, but I don't know if it is or not.
Yes, there's supposed to be no blocking that general purpose travel lane.
Okay. Are there any other options? Like rather than removing some parking, the 3 spots on El Camino, are there any other options as far as pulling in, or I assume that the underground parking garage would be a non-starter for something of that size?
Yeah, the underground parking garage wouldn't be conducive to making those deliveries to the businesses at Springline. Right now, what staff are noticing and confirmed by the police department is that trucks are blocking that general purpose travel lane to make those deliveries to the businesses at Springline. And then they're also taking the fire lane that's in front of the plaza at Springline.
Okay, thank you.
I assume there's a reason that they can't just use Garwood. Is it because the residences are back there or something?
So there is 2 yellow curb for loading zones and also a passenger loading zone that's white curbed on Garwood, but those more function to serve the residents. So for example, if a resident was moving in and using a U-Haul truck, they would have a space, but it isn't conducive to serve the businesses that are fronting El Camino.
Could you pull that map up again, just so we can look at it? Well, sorry, Jackie.
Okay, I had one other just question. I mean, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a problem that we could solve here, but when you had the picture of the 2 where you could see the truck double parked, just given the space available, it looks like there will still be people parked in the red curb. Like right now, there's 2 trucks trying to unload stuff, and one of them's in the red zone, and one of them would take up pretty much all of those 3 parking spaces. So like it helps, and I don't think we can take away more than 5 parking spaces anyway, but it does seem like there still has to be some enforcement coming behind it, or they're still going to park in the red zone. Is my guess. Maybe that wasn't a question.
Okay, maybe we can take public comment. Katrine, could you call for public comment?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table and bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. George, you can come up.
Good evening, Commission. My name is George Halstead. I'm here from Springline. So to answer your question about the why can't people call into the garage, the ceiling heights aren't large enough for box trucks to get in. And when you're pulling in off Garwood, it's a sharp 90-degree turn at the bottom of the garage too. That being said, there are 900 spaces down there. And so the 3 or 4 public spaces that are going to be removed by this, they can go straight into the garage and park. That's available to the public for free for 2 hours down there, which is the same as the length of time of those spaces are right now. So I don't think the community is going to lose anything, and it's going to hopefully make things a lot safer too. Because right now, even just on the way over here, we pulled out of the garage. That very short gap from leaving the garage to looking down El Camino, where cars are coming at 40, is pretty scary, especially at night, when the traffic comes down and you only have 8 or 9 feet to see them. It really needs to be opened up to make it feel a little safer. And then, as you can see also, the space, one thing that wasn't covered there was that the spaces on El Camino, that's actually 7 different retailers. We've got Buble, Robin, Proper, Canopy, Andytown, K-Fico, and Burmalove all operating out of there. And the reason I think this wasn't planned originally 10 years ago when the project was initially planned was because we didn't know if they were going to be that successful. And fortunately, they've been great. We've gotten a lot of really good traffic to them. And so the cost of that is that they need to receive deliveries constantly. And we do our best to try and manage the inbound of those deliveries, but delivery drivers are kind of going to do what is most convenient for them. Similarly, to your comment on Garwood, there are loading spaces. Those are used by the residents a lot too. And if the retailers were going to use those, it's a really long walk. So they're really just going to pull up and do kind of what's most convenient for them, unfortunately, despite the fact that we are constantly trying to keep them in line for you. So thank you for hearing it, and thanks for your support. Let me know if you have any questions. Cool.
Ken, you can speak. Oops, sorry. Hold on one second. There you go. Ken, you should be able to speak now.
I want to voice strong support for the proposed parking removal, and in particular for the importance of daylighting driveways. Daylighting isn't cosmetic. It's a proven safety measure that improves sightlines, reduces conflicts, and protects people walking, biking, and driving. And it's a core element of Vision Zero and safe systems. And I'd like to encourage the Commission to think a step ahead, and rather than limiting daylighting to just 3 spaces, I urge you to extend the daylighted zones further where it's feasible. This anticipates a future protected bikeway on El Camino and avoids having to undo curbside decisions later. Even when a bikeway is eventually in place, there will be still ongoing loading and curbside access needs, which means conflicts don't disappear, they just shift. So longer daylighted areas would create a safer, more predictable place to manage loading without blocking sightlines or forcing dangerous maneuvers into the bike space. So in general, this is a smart, low-cost way to improve safety now while aligning today's curb decisions with tomorrow's mobility needs. And I appreciate staff and the ad hoc committee for moving this forward. Thank you.
I have no one further in queue for public comment. I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the commission?
Go ahead, you first.
First, thank you, Cassandra, for like, I thought it was really thorough. Like all the information I wanted pretty much was in here, and I thought, thank you. And I'm all in favor of the like removal of parking. I think that it's, you know, not just for the people coming out from the driveway, but for the people driving down the street. It is kind of nice to be able to see cars coming out and for bikes coming down. I do wonder, I know we're limited to only 5 spaces and it seems like we've already taken them up, but I do wonder about the idea as the last commenter, in terms of that space in front, it sort of in my mind became like, you know, like a pit row, but for delivery trucks, and then the bike lanes on the other side of it. And it sort of like provides a place for them to be, I don't know. I just, maybe that's not a good path.
Could we go back a slide, please? Yeah, thank you.
But it is just interesting to imagine like, you know, planning ahead for where bike lanes would be vis-a-vis where the delivery trucks would be.
I was just going to add to that point. It actually looks like it's only 3 spaces. So could we take out one more and have 4 for that loading zone for you guys? And then the next spot's blank because I think there's a fire hydrant there. Yep.
To clarify, the request is for 5 spaces. 3 spaces would be designated for that loading zone. And for the 2 proposed no stopping zones, those are 1 parking space each. So that reaches the thresholds of the commission's curb designation authority.
And is that per block or per review?
This would encompass those 5 spots within this request.
Oh, it's per request. Okay. Got it. Yeah. More, I was going to say, yeah, more the better. Is there other safety concerns that you've seen? Is it, how did you get, I guess, Parkline, how did you guys get highlighted based on this? Did the police reach out to you? Did customers say something just to better understand how you guys got behind it? Is there more things around your block that we could do to provide greater access? Because there's a transit station right next door, and we're a bike and pedestrian commission here. How can we promote more people getting to you guys? Is there anything more, or was this just like high level? Yeah. Thanks, Georgia.
Of course. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you for your support. So I think right now, given that we were planning on asking for 5 because we thought that was the max, I think that's what we want to ask for. I would have to go back and check with all the other retailers and see what they want. I know one of the other important considerations here is all of these retailers are doing a lot of DoorDash and delivery pickup traffic too. And so you've got, Dashers and Uber Eats drivers coming in here a lot too. That's definitely an important part of the success of the business there too. I appreciate you wanting to be supportive, and I can bring it back to the team and see if there's any additional requests and how we want to shake it up if there's anything helpful there too.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. That's fine.
I had 2 questions, but I've forgotten one of them. So hopefully it'll come back to me. But the first question, I guess, is how does this impact bike lanes in the future? Because if we have, right, it's one thing to take out parking when there's a 900 space parking garage immediately adjacent to it. It's another thing to take out a loading zone for a business, which, like, will we need to take out a loading zone in order to be able to fit a bike lane on El Camino in the future, 6 or 7 years from now?
As a future project would come in El Camino, that would kind of happen holistically for the whole corridor. And so this wouldn't preclude anything. Like, that change will happen with the implementation of whatever project it may be. So this will effectively make a difference from now until then. So I don't think you have to think about it affecting a future bike lane.
Okay.
It,
Thanks.
it will change the count on how many might get, need changing or something, but other than that.
Also, kind of an aside, I did not know that the parking garage was 900 parking spaces. That's a lot of parking spaces. Thank you guys for building all of that for Menlo Park. Do you know, are they well used at this point? Is the parking garage, sorry, we're asked.
I love talking about it. I'll talk to you about it all night. Keep asking questions. Yeah, so the parking garage is well used. It's increasing in usage over time as people learn more about it. Signage is a component of, I think, helping people find the garage that is a limiting factor across the whole project, actually. In general, wayfinding and signage is a little challenging when we're limited by it a lot. If you haven't parked there, you probably haven't because the garage comes up on you very quickly when you're going down or up Garwood, right? Especially because for the same reason it's scary pulling out of it right now. It's oh, there it is. There it went by, right? And so we've explored adding additional signage out there to just be like, hey, there's public parking here, and there's a lot of it. 2 huge levels of public parking and 187 electric vehicle chargers too. So it's there to be a public resource. Come and check out the retailers too.
Thank you. I am usually biking to Springline, but it's good to know that that's there. And my second question has not come back to me, so maybe it will come back. My second one. Okay. Shall we make a motion to approve a timed parking restriction for loadings? Sorry, timed parking restriction. That's what it was. Is that 24 hours? It is only loading zone, or is it like between Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, it's loading?
So this is defined from our municipal code. So specifically for a yellow curb, it is from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Every day?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And then beyond those hours, it would be open to the public to park?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Who would like to make a motion? Can I make a motion? Is that okay? I was just going to read what this is because it's nicely written. I'm going to make a motion to approve a time parking restriction for a loading zone and no parking zones at 1300 to 1302 El Camino Real and Garwood Way. Can I have a second? Commissioner Seabrian as the second. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Okay, thank you. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is, thank you, is to, I don't know if it's exactly establishing a change for the ad hoc. We're going to discuss the ad hoc subcommittee on the El Camino Real Complete Streets, since we wanted to come back to the commission and double check, just making sure that our kind of plans are oriented with the goals of the commission. So I don't know if you guys have anything to say. I was just going to read the bullet points that I had sent you. Okay. One second. So, our plans are to proceed with kind of planning for the potential El Camino Real quick build for the complete streets, which would span from sort of the southern border of El Camino Palo Alto to Middle Avenue. And just evaluating a lot of those, some things that might come up in that. For example, parking. How many parking spots are there? I know that there are not that many in that space. Many have already been removed, but kind of evaluating what those are. And having, we have a plan to maybe talk to some business owners and residents in the area to discuss, to assess support for this and what obstacles might come up in the kind of public comment phases of the project, sort of preempt those. And one question that we had is if we were to try to get this in ASAP into the next sort of cycle for the city, what would the timeline for the city look like? At what point can we propose some sort of plan that would be able to be used by staff to work into like the capital improvement plan or something?
I think in terms of timeline, it would be like a concluding step would be involving this in your report out to council.
Okay.
I think that's kind of the best avenue for a deliverable.
Okay.
I think that makes the most sense.
And if it gets reported out,
And you can report out here, but it's more like if you want it heard by city council, that at the annual report out is your slot, so to
Okay.
speak, to address council.
and would, if we were to have like an actionable plan at that point, would that be able to be used by the city staff in order to, if council approved and everything?
Yeah, we'd have to
moving
see
and-
what next steps came from council.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how much time you would have. That would be a question I'll have to get back to you on in terms of like, because it is part of like the annual report out of all the activities that the commission has done in the year. And I know Commissioner Seabrian and Cole have done it in the past. You did it as Athena as well. No, yeah,
No,
because
last year.
it's not a long presentation.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if there's a time limit.
It's in August.
It's around the work plan time. I believe that we have a deadline, like it needs to happen before August or something like that. There's a window that we can work on picking which date. Spring, summer.
Good evening, Commissioner. If I may just add, this is Joanna, Transportation Manager. And yes, so to chime in on Katrine's, it is best to report to council because we will have to align with council priorities. But also just a note that even if there is an action plan, we still have to coordinate with Caltrans because it is their right of way, and then Samtrans and then the community, because Samtrans is also leading an effort as they have presented a few months back.
Thank you. Okay, so that's on the quick build, which I think is fairly self-contained. But I think the next part of it is sort of the rest of El Camino within Menlo Park. And well, we wanted to, I guess this is the part where we kind of wanted to have some maybe feedback from the commission about, is this something that we would like to keep within this subcommittee as it stands, or move it out into a separate subcommittee with a dedicated focus? Some things that, again, we would like to see happen during that process are a lot of the same sorts of things. So understanding the timeline for that. So the repaving project, I think, is scheduled for about 5 years from now. But that number, I've heard like several different answers for what that number is. And then, so nailing down the timeline would be one step. Again, doing parking assessment, which would be much more complicated, as we've just seen this evening with the spring line work. There's a lot going on as we get closer to downtown. Resident surveys, business surveys, that kind of thing. Just to kind of get the ball rolling on talking about it, because I think talking about it, a lot of people who I talk to about this are really excited about the project and have really just want to be able to give their feedback. So I don't know. Do you guys have anything to add?
So the question is to take it from ad hoc committee to the full commission.
So our question is just kind of scope, I guess. Since we established this kind of planning to focus on the quick bills, but it's pretty easy to get, since there's so much overlap between the goals, to get kind of pulled into talking about both. So it's just something we wanted to bring up to the commission.
Ad hoc committee is U3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a smaller subset to get
Jackie?
feedback from.
And so like you're,
Mike.
oh, sorry. So what's the question part? I just want to, I'm sorry. I'd like, I mean, in terms like where outside the quick build is it that?
Yeah, so I guess the question is kind of like feedback on our plan for the quick build, which is, as I mentioned, those like kind of 3 bullet points. And then adding on this sort of, it's not really adding, but like kind of extending those 3 bullet points to the rest of El Camino in preparation for something much larger, which will be coming over the next several years. And yeah, I don't know.
I was just going to ask staff, so it's covered by Caltrans. Can they supersede whatever we would do if we just go directly to them?
I can't say for sure, but if we look at what happened in Palo Alto, I believe there was some back and forth. I don't know exactly, but I would look to that as a understanding of kind of how it could go.
Okay. And for you to engage with Caltrans, you need direction from the city council through this annual report out. That's what would provide your direction. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess I would say that whatever work, like whatever part seems to go from this is how we get the bike lane quick build and make it, well, I don't know. I feel like you guys all kind of know. I think you should do however it's leading you, I think that's probably fine. And then when it gets to a kind of where it's ready for us to maybe at least treat it as like a study session or something to sort of make some formal commission comments on it to pass it forward. Would that be the next step for us?
Yeah, so I guess would that mean, would your suggestion then being, plan to report out here in a few months, given time to take the feedback and then send that?
Included in a report
included to the city council, and we can streamline that presentation significantly so that it. I guess when we were talking about the bike racks, there was at various points on the table presenting the bike racks to city council. That ended up not happening. Is it?
I think
Are there opportunities for us to present directly to city council?
Yeah, and I think it would be the same presentation. So you could have a slide on the bike rack outcome of that survey and a slide on, kind of a debrief of what the different ad hoc subcommittees, the ones that you think the council should hear about.
Okay, but there's no like standalone sort of presentations?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask, what would it look like if they used like their 3 minutes of public comment at the beginning of council to present 3 minutes, a nice 3-minute synopsis of the need for bike racks? And then I understand that council can't say anything about it right then, but council then has the information so they can decide like, hey, let's do a study, they can direct maybe. Like they can put it on, I'm just saying it's a way of putting it in front of them instead of waiting a whole year after like, it's because, these things take time. And frankly, like, I feel like, if we could do something that would sort of just put it in their ears they can figure out how to do next steps. And then also include it in our yearly summary in the event nothing happened.
It might be good to reach out to the city clerk and see if how that could work.
Yeah, can we just agendize it if we can get enough momentum, like a council person, the mayor and one other person to agendize it?
The council and the mayor can request
that'd be a better
agendization,
thing.
but
Instead of
the
the
city
January
clerk can help advise you on like the best way to make that public comment. And in terms of like, if it's, you may not be able to, the public comment comes from you personally, so it won't be an official CSC report out. Like she can help clarify those things.
Would we be able to, there's 3 of us, we could stack into 10 minutes.
Let's talk to the city clerk about this. But I don't think she can tell it, like, as a citizen, it's your right to give public comment. It's just a matter of like, kind of what's the best way to do it coordinated.
And it in thirds.
I'm sure they're getting annoyed.
Commissioners, just to clarify, councils cannot take formal action if it is a public comment. So it is best if you guys would like to seek a formal action to be agendized.
So I guess this is kind of a procedural question. Could we make the request during our public comment that city council requested to be agendized?
Because they can't take action from the public comment. But another alternative would be to encourage you to reach out to the city council liaison.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds great.
Because then you're contacting her and she can make that request.
That's a good idea.
I had one. So we can preemptively do like informal surveys and stuff like that around this quick build, or do we have to wait for an okay, or can we anecdotally do things like that, or like with I'm sorry, the bike parking and stuff like that? I believe that was done. Is that correct? Or what okays did you get before?
Oh, we got an okay, but we ran it personally.
Okay.
We didn't use like the city.
We did not
platform.
use
It did,
the
like,
city.
later turn out that we could have.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I
clear.
know we wanted to revisit why we didn't, because
Yeah.
it made it really hard for you to parse the results.
Right.
Mhm.
And the city tool would have been better, but there was a discussion that was before my time about whether the commission could use the city resources for the survey, and the answer was no at that time. We can ask again.
Yeah.
But-
Because it does just help parse the results better. But again, it's the hour limit for liaison support for CSC. So I think it kind of could go either way. Well, I can double check.
And that was approved by the city council?
No, that was just between staff and for the bike parking about putting out the survey.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
two city council members did send it out in their newsletters. So.
I had one other thing. I just had one other thing. Based on just preliminary research and stuff, I got some feedback. There's a salon over there by Namesake Cakes. And the parking's already removed from there, and they were saying they park on College Ave, which is right next to it, but there's a time limit on the parking, and that the people refrain from parking on that College Ave. And if it could be increased from 1 hour to 2 hour, you would probably push more business to those. Is there any possible change? Do we have authority to do that, or how is that regulated if you know?
Think so similar to the spring line. I think it helps to have the request come from that business owner if that's truly where it's originating. Typically we get it from residents, but in this case, it would be the business owner.
Okay. I don't know. Have we answered our questions? I think. Okay, so we will make a plan to come back to the commission in a couple months with more details about a plan.
I think because it's agendized, we still need to call for public comment.
Oh,
But I don't
Is there any public comment? Katrine, could you call the public comment, please?
I lost my sheet. My script. For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage a raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you are participating in person, please fill out the speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Ken, you may speak.
Good evening, commissioners. Obviously, I support the quick build implementation, but I want to remind everyone that the passage of SB 960, the state law, requires Caltrans to respond to encroachment permit applications within 60 days. So that removes a historical bottleneck and makes timely delivery more realistic. And I also want to express support for phase 2 planning process aligned with the Caltrans SHOP program that has repaving scheduled in the 2030-2032 timeframe. And so Menlo Park needs to develop a clear segment specific plan for Middle Avenue to Valparaiso. So the quick build is kind of phase 1, and then that would be a phase 2. And I think combined, they sort of set Menlo Park up to not be the gap city between Palo Alto and Atherton. Thanks.
Having no one further in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. And I think we don't need to make a motion because we're not changing the scope in any meaningful way. Just clarification on the scope. So we'll move to informational items. Under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The first informational item tonight is F1, update on major project status. Katrine, are there any updates?
I have one wonderful update. The Willow Road protected bike lane, we were awarded a TA grant for $1.15 million in addition to go towards helping that project move forward. And that concludes my update on major product status.
Does that cover most of the needed gap in the project? I mean, not for construction, right? You guys are still in design phase.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess I have one more comment. I didn't get to, was the Middle Avenue undercrossing on the city council this week, and I totally missed it.
It was
Was the last Tuesday?
2 weeks ago. It was a
okay.
past meeting.
Can I get an update on that?
Yeah. And you'll have to look at the minutes
read
for
it.
sure, because I'm just going from memory when I looked at it. But I believe city council voted to move forward with the option to have it shovel ready. So to keep moving forward with the design and planning. And even though there's a very large funding gap, but just to keep trying for grants and that kind of thing and move forward with the design.
Thank you. It did come up in the public comment earlier, and I realized I had not followed up on it.
Can I just add to that? I've been reading that Palo Alto is now considering for their grade crossings as well, to do undercrossings. Are you familiar? Just in like the past week, they've been starting to talk about. And I wonder if that would be an opportunity for us to bundle together or like.
I think that's what I read in the staff report.
Okay.
That they are actually meeting together.
Okay.
I believe maybe
like
at the
Palo Alto
county level
Park?
or something. Well, I think it might be the county level. So I don't know if Palo Alto's weird because they're
Okay.
in the next county, but I know Azalea, it was in the staff report that there is efforts for, and that's so like, there's two different undercrossings. One would be the like below grade for vehicles, and then the other is bike ped undercrossing. And
Ah.
so this is the below grade one, I think, is they're all meeting together to kind of talk about a consolidated approach,
Mhm,
rather than kind of all going at it alone.
mhm.
But the staff reports have more, so you should take a peek.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I also have one more question, which maybe we don't, maybe is not, it's a little bit tangential, but was an overcrossing ever on the table? Like, because I don't know, does Caltrain not let things go over it? Because I cannot think of a single overcrossing, but it seems like it would be cheaper to build. Oh, San Antonio.
San Antonio, there's one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a roadway. That's the only one I can think of.
No, there's a San Antonio bridge overcrossing, I think. But anyway, I was just wondering why. we've
I
only talked
believe
about undercrossings.
if you were to go to our website, there's probably an old presentation or report that says why.
Okay.
I believe it likely has to do with cost and needing to go so high. I think maybe the San Antonio one could be grandfathered in a different, I bet now you'd have to go higher, just like now we have to go deeper.
Mhm.
And then maintaining ADA accessibility when you're going that high can just take a
Yeah.
really long space for that to,
Okay.
those are my, there's probably a better answer in a staff report, but that's my.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
My favorite question. I was gonna, Woodland, Middlefield, any updates or what's the timing? Is it fully funded for the consultant? Is there a timeline?
We kicked off this week. Woo!
Okay.
So I'll
That's
give
great.
you some more set dates once we get there on when I will have our public meeting. It's looking like it would probably be late summer.
So is this just a study and there's no budget for it and it's gonna take another like 10 or 20 years?
No, this is the study to determine, there's going to be resurfacing. I don't know if it's repaving or resurfacing. They're going to be a CIP project in that area, I believe the summer of 2028. So we're working towards that because that part, it's in the budget for this next fiscal year. So it will for sure be in the budget once that budget is passed.
So there's no like sidewalks in a portion of that? Do you think that, is there budget to add sidewalks? Because I know that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And the budget is getting set
Yeah,
now,
that's why I was
and we're
asking,
doing
yeah.
the planning next, but we're doing
Okay.
our best to make some assumptions on what we think a project like that would cost and
Okay.
putting an appropriate amount aside.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Okay. Can we call for public comment on this?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Ken, you can speak. Oh, maybe it was just raised from before. Okay. I have no one in queue for public comment. I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Are there any subcommittees that would like to report out tonight? No? Okay. So I will adjourn this meeting at 7:54. Thank you, everybody.